Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving deep into a topic that's both terrifying and fascinating: serial killers who led double lives. These murderers managed to fool everyone around them, living seemingly normal lives while committing heinous crimes. It's chilling to think that the friendly neighbor, the dedicated churchgoer, or even the charming co-worker could be harboring a dark secret. So, grab your coffee, find a comfy spot, and get ready to explore the twisted minds and double lives of some of history's most notorious serial killers. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our spine-chilling content. Okay, let's start with Dennis Rader, better known as the BTK Killer. BTK, it stands for Bind, Torture, Kill. This guy terrorized Wichita, Kansas for over a decade. And what makes his case even more disturbing is how he managed to live a completely normal life while committing these horrific acts. Dennis Rader was your typical family man. He had a wife, 2 kids, a house, a dog, the whole 9 yards. He was a Boy Scout leader. Can you imagine that? This guy, responsible for the deaths of 10 innocent people, was out there teaching kids about knots and camping. And if that wasn't enough to make your skin crawl, Rader was also deeply involved in his church. He was an elected church council president. This dude was literally leading prayers and singing hymns while harboring these incredibly dark fantasies. It's mind-blowing how someone can compartmentalize like that, living such a stark contrast between their public and private lives. Rader's killings were brutal and calculated. He would stalk his victims, often families, and then break into their homes, binding, torturing, and ultimately killing them. He seemed to relish the fear he instilled in his victims and in the Wichita community. He even sent taunting letters to the police, bragging about his crimes and signing them BTK. For years, the BTK case went cold, leaving the people of Wichita living in fear. But Rader couldn't resist the urge to insert himself back into the narrative. In 2004, after a long hiatus, he resurfaced, sending a letter to the police, this time with a floppy disk. He thought he was being clever, but that floppy disk would be his downfall. Investigators were able to trace the disk back to Dennis Rader, the church-going family man. When they searched his home, they found a treasure trove of evidence linking him to the BTK murders. Dennis Rader was arrested in 2005 and is currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences. Now, let's talk about another serial killer who mastered the art of deception. John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown. This guy's story is the stuff of nightmares, and his ability to blend in and even charm those around him is truly disturbing. Gacy was a well-known figure in his Chicago suburb. He was a successful contractor, active in local politics, and even dressed up as Pogo the Clown for children's parties and charity events. Can you imagine? This guy, responsible for the deaths of at least 33 young men and boys, was bringing joy to children. Gacy's double life was a carefully constructed facade. He was a master manipulator, using his charm and charisma to gain the trust of his victims, often luring them back to his home with promises of work or alcohol. Once inside, he would overpower them, torture them, and eventually kill them, burying most of their bodies in the crawl space beneath his house. Neighbors had complained about a foul odor coming from Gacy's house, but he would just brush it off, saying it was a plumbing issue or something. Gacy's downfall came when a young man named Robert Peast disappeared after telling his mother he was going to meet with Gacy about a potential job. The police, already suspicious of Gacy due to his previous run-ins with the law, obtained a search warrant for his home. What they found was horrifying. They discovered the remains of 29 bodies buried in the crawl space, as well as other bodies scattered throughout the property. Gacy was arrested and charged with 33 counts of murder. During his trial, Gacy's defense team tried to argue that he was insane, but the jury didn't buy it. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. John Wayne Gacy was executed by lethal injection in 1994. Chapter 3. Ted Bundy, the All-American Nightmare. get ready to talk about one of the most infamous serial killers in American history, Ted Bundy. This guy was the epitome of charming and charismatic, which is perhaps what made him so terrifying. He shattered the stereotype of the creepy, reclusive serial killer, proving that evil can lurk beneath the most attractive and seemingly normal exterior. Ted Bundy was, on the surface, living the American dream. He was handsome, intelligent, and came from a good family. He was a law student at the University of Washington, volunteered for the Seattle Crime Prevention Advisory Commission. Get this, he even worked at a suicide hotline. Bundy used his charm and good looks to his advantage, often luring his victims by pretending to be injured or disabled. He would gain their trust, sometimes even engaging them in conversation before overpowering and killing them. His crimes were brutal and often involved sexual assault and necrophilia. What's even more disturbing is that Bundy managed to escape from custody twice. He even committed more murders while he was supposedly on the run. Bundy's reign of terror finally came to an end in Florida in 1978. He was arrested for driving a stolen car and was eventually linked to a series of murders in the state. During his trial, Bundy, who had studied law, decided to represent himself. Despite his attempts to charm the jury, the evidence against him was overwhelming. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. Ted Bundy was executed in Florida's electric chair in 1989. Chapter 4. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Monster. Okay, you guys, let's talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, the name synonymous with horror and depravity. This case is not for the faint of heart, but it's important to understand how someone like Dahmer could operate under the radar for so long. Dahmer was quiet and unassuming, working at a chocolate factory and living a seemingly unremarkable life in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was described by some as a loner, but not someone who raised any major red flags. However, behind his quiet facade, Dahmer harbored a darkness that would shock the world. Dahmer's crimes were horrific, involving murder, dismemberment, cannibalism, and necrophilia. He would lure young men, often gay or people of color, back to his apartment, drug them, and then carry out his gruesome fantasies. Dahmer was obsessed with the idea of creating sex zombies, drilling holes into his victims' skulls and pouring in acid in a twisted attempt to control them. He kept trophies from his victims, skulls, bones, even Polaroid pictures of their bodies in various stages of dismemberment. Dahmer's reign of terror finally ended in 1991 when one of his intended victims managed to escape and flag down police. When the officers entered Dahmer's apartment, they were met with a scene of unimaginable horror. The smell of decay was overwhelming, and the evidence of Dahmer's crimes was everywhere. Dahmer was arrested and charged with 15 counts of murder. He was found guilty and sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences. In 1994, Jeffrey Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. Chapter 5. Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer. All right, you guys, let's delve into the unsettling case of Ed Kemper, also known as the co-ed killer. This case is particularly disturbing because Kemper, despite his horrific crimes, was often seen as intelligent, articulate, and even charming. He was a master manipulator who used his intellect to deceive those around him, including law enforcement. Kemper's troubled childhood is well documented. He had a deeply dysfunctional relationship with his mother, whom he eventually murdered before embarking on his killing spree. He began his crimes by killing his grandparents when he was just 15 years old. After his release from a mental institution, Kemper, who was over 6 feet tall and incredibly strong, began targeting young female hitchhikers in Santa Cruz, California. He would use his intelligence and charm to lure them into his car, often engaging them in conversation before driving them to secluded areas and killing them. What's truly chilling about Kemper is that he would often befriend law enforcement officers, even frequenting a bar popular with police officers. He would engage them in conversation, gleaning information about the ongoing investigations into his own crimes. Kemper's downfall came after he murdered his own mother and her friend. He then drove to Colorado, But overcome with guilt and realizing the futility of his situation, he called the police and confessed to his crimes. Ed Kemper's case is a chilling reminder that intelligence and charm can be used as tools of manipulation and deception. Well, there you have it, you guys. A glimpse into the dark and twisted world of serial killers who led double lives. It's a chilling reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, hidden behind masks of normalcy, charm, and even piety. Thanks for watching. If you found this video intriguing, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime stories. Let me know in the comments which case you found most shocking. Until next time, stay curious, but be careful out there.